next political guest is a very interesting person. He's also born and raised in Sweden, as myself. And he's a person that is also helping me to learn more about the politics from a Swede's perspective in Finland. He's none other than Markus Söderman, who is also the chairman of the SFP in Espoo City Center. Welcome to the podcast, Markus.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I'm trying to get out of a cold, but I think it's almost over by now.
Okay, good. Yeah, we are in challenging times in the winter of Finland.
Yes. Especially with the children, you easily get this within your home.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your background. You come from Sweden. Tell us a little bit about your background in Sweden and then why and how you moved to Finland.
Yeah, so I'm pretty much like you. I have Finnish roots on my mother's side, and but unlike you, I have not spoken Finnish growing up because we had a language shift between generations. But I did hear a lot of Finnish at home when my mom was speaking to her parents, my grandparents, or with her brothers. And I kind of, by accident, ended up in Finland I was playing a video game or like a computer game, and I started to chat with a woman there, and she turns out she's from Finland. So it was fun to speak. Oh yeah, my mom is from Finland too, but I have never really been to Finland, only went with the ferry on occasions. But one thing led to another, and now I have been living here since 2007, and I had the divorce, but I'm staying here. This is my home now.
Okay, so you became, let's say, a naturalized Finnish person also, but with a double citizenship.
Yes, exactly, and actually I saw an opportunity to learn Finnish, because when I was small I wanted to learn Finnish, but it wasn't really possible as I didn't have the basics in Finnish, which was required by Swedish authorities to get like native language tuition.
Okay.
So, but now after I can't count, but after many years I'm quite fluent in Finnish, so I'm really happy and proud of myself over that.
Good. So how was your first years trying to, let's say, integrate speaking Swedish in a country where Swedish is supposed to be the second language? Well, it is, but it's also supposed to be an official language, and services should be available in
yeah, it's not the second language, it's the official language.
The official language,
yeah.
Okay.
But I know it's in colloquial language, they say it's the second language, but basically it's more depending. I am a Swedish speaker, so for me the second language is Finnish,
of course,
and for Finnish speakers it's the other way around.
Yeah, I'm just counting numbers, so most people in Finland speak Finnish.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you have Swedish speakers, I guess, being the, maybe not anymore, because we are very much into also the international communities, so we will talk about that also later. But Swedish as a language, how was it to manage when you first came, speaking Swedish?
Moving to Tampere, it was quite difficult because Tampere is like a unilingual Finnish-speaking city, and we speak in terms of the law and statistics and stuff like that. Of course, Tampere is also an international city with lots of minority groups and many languages, but I didn't really have any right to speak Swedish in Tampere with the authorities. And it was very confusing because I kind of read, okay, it's like bilingual and stuff like that. But in the end, I noticed that if I went to buy a pizza, I could get service in Swedish. But if I went to Kela, I didn't get service in Swedish. And it was more like a lottery. Where did my Swedish really work? So it kind of was a mix that sometimes I used Swedish, sometimes I used English, and the little Finnish I knew at the time. We need to remember my Finnish was horrible when I moved here. And after a few years I moved down to Helsinki because I got a job at the daycare, and I worked at the daycare for a year, and it was a Swedish-speaking daycare. And it was I was quite amazing because I was unemployed in Sweden. It was really hard to get a job where I lived, but in Finland I got a job after a week of searching for it actively. So that was also my first real contact with Finland Swedes in Finland. I had been at the Swedish school in Tampere, but it was such a mix of people from Ostrobothnia, from southern Finland, and that grew up in Tampere. But in Kauniainen it was a bit different. It was people from Kauniainen that lived there, and it was a different way to get in. And I kind of started to integrate into the Finnish-Swedish society too for the first time.
Okay. So before that, how much Finnish did you learn in Tampere before moving?
I went 7 months on an integration course, and it was like 5 hours a day. And I kind of picked up on the basics there, and I started to feel that I actually learned Finnish that I can use and build upon. But I also learned a lot after moving, because I kind of figured out that I wanted to study at the university. So I applied to do this, what's called gymnasium, the upper secondary education in Finland. Like high school, and of course Finnish is a part of the curriculum. Even if it was in Swedish, I had to learn Finnish too.
As a second language.
Yes, as a second language, and I kind of enjoyed it. And
how old were you then?
When I started, I moved to Finland when I was 22, and this was maybe 2 or 3 years after that.
So as an adult, you started learning Finnish.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, I'm giving up many times learning Finnish, but at some points you kind of just say to yourself, okay, your Finnish is so good now, you're just going to learn more after this. And but still it was...
so you were just decided that I'm going through hell, but I just need to continue to get through.
Exactly.
Through it to the
and
other side.
I need to speak poor Finnish with people. Because if I'm quiet until I'm mastered Finnish, I'm never going to master Finnish. I'm never going to get to this point.
That's kind of the classic school, well, not too classic, but the relatively modern way of teaching and learning languages, well, from school, that you're expected to be grammatically correct before speaking, or somehow you feel that you cannot speak until you speak perfectly, and then that will never happen, because it's like a catch-22 problem.
Yes, this was actually something I learned at the daycare, because in my years, the Finland Swedes spoke very good Finnish, and I was kind of like praising them for it, and it's like, nah, I actually speak bad Finnish. I just speak and let if they understand, and I'm fine with that. And I've kind of picked up on that, and that is really how it should be. And after that, my Finnish started to get a lot better when I started to stop being afraid of making a fool out of myself. But it's how's the saying goes, that to do something good, you have to do it bad a lot.
First. That's fantastic. And can you? That's a really important point. So the key for your language learning improvement was to start speaking on the level that you had, even though it was, in your maybe perspective, not good enough.
Yes, and a problem is that I know it's a problem in Sweden too, that if I speak poor Finnish, people start to answer me in English. Of course, I know they mean well, but it's really disheartening for a language learner to get that your Finnish is not good enough, so I'm going to switch to English.
How did you manage that?
I just continued in Finnish. I just pressed on, and after a few sentences, they kind of got that. Okay, I really do want to speak Finnish, so they switched to Finnish. But it's really tough to do that and just stay the course.
You have to be really determined and also brave enough to just continue.
Yeah, and they just gonna, of course, like try to understand. They mean well, even if it's not really that kind of thing that you should do to switch language with the language learner.
So how have you seen that improve now over the years? Do you use still mostly Finnish or Swedish in the capital region where you operate? You can maybe just comment on that first, and then I want to hear more about your studies. But how is it now compared to then?
I really enjoy speak Finnish, So I speak Finnish with everyone that wants to speak it, but I also see that some people wants to learn Swedish, and of course I'm gonna let them speak poor Swedish with me, as they are in the position I was in at one point. And of course I speak Swedish with my kids. They are bilingual, Finnish, Swedish, and they go to Swedish school, so a lot of things that has to do with school is in Swedish. Of course, they have lots of Finnish in school too, with it starting at the first or second grade or something. So they get lots of Finnish input. And at work, I speak sometimes Swedish, mostly Finnish. It really depends on what we are doing.
But before talking about your work now and then the politics, that is really interesting also. You started studying at the high school level in Finnish.
Yes. Or no, in Swedish.
In Swedish.
Yes.
That was in, if we use the Swedish word of kauniainen, so Grankulla.
Yes.
And then, so if you take us from there to then your higher education.
Yeah, it was more like this, that I was working at the daycare, and then it was like a fixed term contract. And I applied for a new job as a personal assistant for a then boy, now man, that was going to the upper secondary school in Matliden. And so we were doing the same thing at the same time, but I was working for him, like trying to help him get around and stuff like that. But my school was in Vasa, because it was distance education. And I must say the Finnish education system is good, at least in this part, because this is the one that I really have a first-hand contact with, apart from university studies. So yeah, it took 3 years like it does, and I finished the same time as my boss, so to say, and we are still good friends after that.
Okay.
And after that, I just applied for different kind of educations at university level, and I kind of stuck to, or like I felt that linguistics was my thing. I got admitted to other educations too, but linguistics was and still is my big passion in life.
Yeah. So did you start studying at Helsinki University directly, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when was this?
This was in 2012. 2012, and I'm still at the University of Helsinki. It's kind of become my second home.
Yeah. And you're a PhD candidate right now, right?
Yes.
So take us a little bit through the journey of starting studying as a student to then, let's say, becoming a researcher, and what your focus is now and how it developed.
Yeah, so I was really bad in grade school. I had terrible grades. So the first half year at university was just pinching myself in the arm as well. Oh my gosh, I'm at the university. How did I really get this far? But actually it was just the beginning. So I was studying Scandinavian languages as a native speaker. There are two different lines for it. And by the end of the studies, I kind of enjoyed writing my thesis, like master's thesis, and I thought that I should really continue with this. And because I felt like I know I want to work with languages and with minority languages. How can we support minority languages? And I don't mean those that are officially minority language, but also any language that finds them in a minority.
Cool. So that took you all the way through the master's thesis, your master's degree, and then you.
I just pressed on again.
Yeah, you just continued.
Yes.
And then on the same topic.
Yeah. Yes. Now I'm looking at language contact, so I'm comparing Finnish speakers and Swedish speaker, how they use back channeling, like how do they nod, how do they say yes, aha, stuff like that.
Like body language aspects.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So the thing is that you can share a language, but you don't necessarily share culture.
Yeah.
So that's why Finland Swedes and Sweden Swedes may behave a bit different when they speak. Like Swedes are famous in Finland for using really strong language, not like a bad language, but like they say like absolutely, precisely. They have lots of like words that they use when they are like backing the speaker up.
So, as a linguistic expert, then, what would you say about the language, the spoken language or the written language, the words that we use? How important are they? I mean, there's a lot of body language experts that talk about the body language speaking much more than your actual words. And I read or heard about a research saying something about that the language, spoken and written language, is not actually a part of our, let's say, brain functions. Let's say that has been evolved over thousands of years, but rather something quite new.
The written language.
The written language,
Yes.
and actually the language, the words that we speak, and that does that have something to do with, let's say, the cultures that have been formed, and how important today is the language versus everything else that we do when we communicate? Because I'm looking also at the integration problem where we get stuck with talking about what language should we talk in a certain situation, whereas the communication in general, the contact we get, the eye contact, and the general, let's say, chemistry that we share is so much more important. And then we get stuck on choosing between languages that still are, as I've understood, quite new phenomena. I don't know what you know about that, or what's your take on that?
If I start with the written language, what one needs to remember is that the written language is a poor picture of the spoken language, and it's like a standard, so they don't really sync very well. And this is very apparent with Finnish, because the spoken language is very quite different from the written language. And no one really speaks the written language. It's just like a standard, so we can understand each other and understand documents and stuff like that. And what you say is true about body language. Like, you can understand like 2 words a person say, but you see if he's angry, if he's happy, or like if he's like agitated or anything. So there's lots of other cues that really tells you what is going on, and by 2 words you can hear that parking and ticket. You understand those 2 and see that the person is angry, and then you understand, okay, he's angry because he's gotten a parking ticket. And this is a true story. I got a parking ticket today.
You told me. Okay, so let's go into politics. So at what time and in what context did you get involved with politics in Finland, or interested to start with in politics?
Yeah, that's a long story, but I have always been interested in politics. Even when I lived in Sweden, I joined different youth organizations, and I felt that I want a world that is fair, and that really don't a state that doesn't really mess with people's what they are doing, and as long as they don't really hurt anyone else. And when I moved to Finland, I still felt like, okay, do I have the right as an immigrant to have a saying in what is going on in Finland? And the conclusion was yes, because I plan on staying here, and I don't want to force things on Finns or anything like that. So I really felt like the politics were calling me, even after moving away. But of course, it was really difficult to, even though the parties are named similar in Sweden and Finland, like we have the Social Democrats and so on and so forth. They are very different parties, even if they bear roughly the same name. And I kind of find out that even though language is important to me, that the Swedish People's Party, they kind of mirrored my worldview in the end. So I decided on the Swedish People Party for that reason.
So you were first interested in politics, and then you started looking for the party in Finland that would most represent your worldview.
Yes, exactly.
And at what stage did you then get involved actively, and what were the issues that you felt that these are important issues?
in the beginning, I was just kind of this like any member, that I was just trying to get a feel for the party and what it is, and what they are doing, and things like that. So there was not like one question that was like driving. It was more like my ideological like basis that I want a liberal Western society. And it's really difficult in the beginning to find any one question that you can really grab and take as your own. And it took a long time for me to. It was much later that I kind of felt, but okay, no, I'm gonna go for liberalism, and I see liberalism that even though we need to tolerate even ideas that we don't really like, as long as they don't really try to raise the foundation for democracy. Of course, you don't need to tolerate like the far right or extremist worldviews, because they are like kind of trying to take away the basis for liberalism. So that is kind of one of my driving engines. And of course, I'm a linguist. I'm not going to get away from the language question. So for me, I really want that Finland stay a bilingual country, and that we have strong Finnish and Swedish schools. And but I also want that we need to see that Finland is a lot more international today than it was even 20 years ago when I moved here. It was not really that common for people to move here. But I think it's really important that we try to support other language groups too, that they make their native languages stay in family. It's very important for Finland that we have a lot of people that speak different languages. But as I didn't speak Finnish when I moved to Finland, even if I have a Finnish mother, for me, I always felt that I have been missing out on something when I haven't spoken the native language of my mother and her family. So it's like really good for a child to make this like intergenerational, what do you call it, this kind of connection between grandmothers and grandfathers and stuff like that. And this became very apparent when my grandfather got a stroke and lost all of his Swedish. So of my brothers, I was the only one that could communicate with him because I had learned Finnish.
Wow. That's very powerful.
Yes.
So you also have mentioned that one of the core issues that you actually see as very important, that I also very strongly share with you, is to speak your own language, your native language, to your children, irrespectively of where you live and what languages are spoken there, because that's a richness to the children. And in my own case, we kind of experimented with 3 languages with my son, and because I missed out on my father's native language, because he came to Sweden in the 70s before I was born. So he learned Swedish fluently coming from northern Iraq as a Kurdish person. So he spoke Kurdish, Arabic, and then he learned Czech, living 1 year in Czech Republic before moving to Sweden. And then, of course, spoke English also and learned Swedish as his 5th language, and then learned it so well, so quickly, because he wanted to study medicine. So that when I was born, he spoke only Swedish. So I felt that I missed out on some languages that I never learned. I still don't know anything of his original languages. I haven't visited any of, let's say, the countries in the Middle East enough to even have a chance for that. But then I learned my own languages, and then now with my son, having Swedish as my language and my wife speaking Spanish, I felt always that it was, of course, very important for him to get our languages, although we live in Finland. And then very, very quickly, Finnish still became his first language growing up in Finland. So I see that it's very possible, and we should not limit the possibilities of a child to learn a language just because we want them to have all opportunities, like my father wanted in Sweden to have Swedish and Finnish as the 2 languages to concentrate on. So he kind of did not think that I would also be able to manage a 3rd language growing up. But now my son is a testament to at least my belief that is very much possible. And then he also learns now in school English very easily, and now as a 5th language he chose German at the age of 10, and he really likes it. So he's very much into languages, and I think you can help children be also more interested in languages. If they get a couple of languages for free, 2-3 languages for free, then it's a fantastic future for them. Let's say very, very much facilitated.
Yeah, I really agree on that, and one must remember that language learning support each other. Like learning German makes learning English easier, it makes learning Dutch easier. Even learning Finnish makes learning Estonian easier, and you kind of get the concept of grammar in a different way when you have learned a few languages. So at some point, the grammar is almost automatic, and you just learn words to apply on the grammar.
Yeah.
May I ask you, do your son code switch a lot? Like, do he mix languages a lot?
No. I mean, we have some words that come now and then in one language because we might not have that word yet in that language. But no, so we have a very clear, I mean, when my son was born, actually I switched languages with my cats. So we adopted 2 cats from Colombia and took them with us here. And in Colombia, we were speaking Spanish, of course, all the time.
Yeah.
But then when my son was born, I decided I had to make this mental switch that now I'm going to speak Swedish to my cats also, so that my son hears more Swedish here in Finland, where I was the only source of Swedish basically for him.
How did the cats react?
So that's a good question. I don't really know. I'm not that in tune with how they react to the language. It's maybe the tone rather.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me it was challenging though to like automatically switch language, even though I was speaking to a cat. So to always remember that now I'm speaking Swedish because my son might be hearing, and then when he was not hearing, also just now I've been speaking Swedish with, well, now we have only 1 cat left, but for the last 10 years. And to create like an environment for my son where he hears a lot of Swedish. Yeah. And then our rule is that, okay, with one person you speak only one language. So with my mother, he speaks only Finnish, because I only speak Finnish with my mother. And she had that, let's say, philosophy to only speak Swedish. Sorry, in Sweden, she only spoke Finnish to me and my brother. So we always only spoke Finnish to my mother. Although some words that we didn't know in Finnish came in Swedish. And now every time my son says a word in Finnish, because he doesn't know the Swedish word yet, I tell him the Swedish word, so that he always gets access to the Swedish as much as possible. But yeah, so and basically when you have one person who only speaks that language, a child automatically switches to that language only. So when he speaks to my brother, it's Swedish, or my father, it's Swedish. And so I think children can learn that very, very quickly, very easily.
Yeah. In my experience, it can vary, and some children kind of defies it. But I think it's important that I was talking about code switching, like mixing languages and throwing whole sentences from a different language in. It's a sign of bilingualism, and one should not fear it. And but of course, I do.
Yeah, I mean, for fun, we have a lot of expressions that we use, like that I also use, like in Spanish when I speak with my son in Swedish, although we are in Finland. So, and yeah, so that's like another dimension to it. So, and there's some things that you don't have in, let's say, Finnish or Swedish, so we take it from Spanish. It's like a cultural thing.
Yeah, and of course Finns do it too with English. They borrow words from English all the time and show signs of bilingualism, even if they are not like in a national context. They are not in a minority, but in a global context with English with a very strong position on the global market. They kind of show the same thing.
But you would only be able to do that with people who understand that language and culture also.
Exactly.
So it's like a sub-community that has the both the languages.
Exactly. But I wanted to bring out that one should not be afraid if once okay, my child is answer me. I speak to my child in Spanish, but he answers me in Finnish all the time, because that goes away with age. That at some point. Some never switch. They have this kind of parallel use of language all the time, but they understand the both languages.
Okay, well, that's good to know, and it's a good point, because I've heard too much of the other side when the parents just let the kids speak the local language and they never interfere, they never help to actually improve the language, the vocabulary in the native language of the parent. and then in the end the child never learns that language.
Yeah.
And then when they're old, they will have, let's say, challenges learning it.
Yeah.
When it could have come automatically as a child. So I have that in my family also, like a cousin who moved to Holland, who never spoke Finnish. Well, that's maybe another extreme case where they just, like in your case, you didn't have access to the language on a daily basis.
It's a bit like balancing on a razor's edge, because you don't want to make it a trauma for the child either.
Exactly.
So because that can make them like defy your native language altogether.
Yeah.
So I think it's very, very much from child to child. See how they react and try to make it positive in a way.
Yeah, but if the environment is, let's say, you have an environment in a certain language, then it's easier to speak that other language.
Yes, of course.
If everyone else is
of
doing
course.
it, because then you'll be the odd one out if you speak the local language of the country, the community you're in is in another language.
Yeah.
But if you go to the integration issue and something that you studied, let's say on your master's level, the minorities and this focus, let's say, leading also your interest to joining this multicultural committee that we have in Espoo, that we joined together at the same time as the, let's say, founding members of this very small committee. So we have a focus where we really try to inform international people who don't have Finnish or Swedish as a native language to learn more about what happens in Finland, and also how they can be involved and also contribute on different levels. So what are the key things that you have seen are important in Espoo and Finland for these minority groups, taking this language and culture aspect into account?
The most important thing is that Espoo is trying very hard to make a good job, and they kind of communicate it. It doesn't really matter which party you belong to. It's in everyone's interest that integration is working, and it's working well, which is very good at this point. Of course, they are trying different things to get it to work, but the heart is in the right place, and they actually encourage parents to pass on their native language too. So I'm very happy about that. What I would like to see more is different way of making immigrants more connected with their community, and I think that NGOs and this third sphere is very important. Is that it's a way for where not only for immigrants, and anything should join an NGO and try to partake in the society around them and take care of it. And it doesn't really matter which NGO it is, as long as it feels right for them. And I hope that kind of cooperation could work a lot better. So because you can't really go to a Finnish course or a Swedish course and expect to learn language only at the course. You really need to take it out of the classroom too, and really make it your own mission to learn the language, because no one else is going to do it for you in the end.
Exactly, like you did with Swedish, even with Finnish.
Yes.
Even Finnish, and I wanted to include Swedish here as a target language, because I see also that even in Espoo, where we supposedly are a bilingual city, even in a bilingual country, we don't have enough integration between Finnish speakers and Swedish speakers, although we have all of them being native Finnish. So how would you, let's say, see this issue being similar to the other minority issues, and what would be the common things we could try to do or communicate to everyone to make this easier?
Like integration between Swedish and Finnish, I think that is a bit of a different question.
Okay.
Because we have like Finnish schools and Swedish schools, like two school systems, and most immigrants today are integrating in the Finnish schools. Of course, I would like more to also integrate in the Swedish schools, because it's important. It's important for the Swedish minority too, not only numbers, but that we also get to meet people from around the world, and people that grow up from Finland, that grow up with a background like linguistic backgrounds and cultural backgrounds and so on. And but people maybe are afraid that but the Finnish is mostly used in Espoo. Of course it is, and in the end it's really a question what you are going to do with the language. If you work in English and you have a spouse that speaks Swedish, then maybe Swedish is the right thing. But if you want to work within retail or marketing, of course Finnish is the right choice for you. But different languages have different positions in society and in your own life too. So it's really important to choose according to what you're thinking of doing with the language. So I see a model that if you are integrating and you're working in English, for instance, or something, or you plan to work with kids, then Swedish is great. And you can use Swedish as the language when you're in contact with the city or with the state, you can use Swedish. But then speak English at work and other languages at home or within different communities. But between Finnish and Swedish, I think there is room for a lot more cooperation between schools. And the reason why a lot of Finns don't learn Swedish is because it's not relevant for them. They don't see it as relevant. They have no contacts with the other Swedish speakers. And of course, there's a growing number of Swedish speakers that doesn't really learn Finnish in this country either. So I think it's like mutual benefits to be had in this kind of cooperation. Because in the end, I think connection between people is what creates a good society.
Yeah. So what would be your final words as a representative of the Multicultural Committee in Espoo? Your, let's say, encouragement to international people regarding the elections coming up, and then you can give your final personal message as a candidate also. What's your personal message to any voter out there who might be interested in these kind of issues?
I would like to see more people with a diverse background taking part in Finnish society. I want more people with a diverse background to participate in party politics. So anyone that wants to join like Swedish People Party are very welcome. And don't let the name set you off or be afraid of it. We are very welcoming towards people of Finnish-speaking background, Spanish-speaking background, anything. And I think it kind of enriches the politics to get more different views in politics. Of course, we can be of different opinions, but we try to keep it civil at least, and we are open for discussions on anything. And I'm myself are in both elections, both the local elections for the city council and for the regional elections. And my message is I'm always willing to listen to people. Like just you can send a text message or an email or anything. And I really like to talk with the people that are of different opinions. As soon as it is like we're trying to understand each other's view, we don't need to persuade the other one, but I just try to understand and keep it like nice and clean. And of course I talk with everyone. I even talk with my complete political opposites, as long as they are just they are being courteous and nice.
Fantastic. And do you have any key issue that you, let's say, really are passionate about in specific?
Yeah, the language question is goes without saying. But I really want to see that young people today participate more in society, and that they don't just learn like this kind of hands-on skills and maths and stuff like that, but also what it means to have a democracy, and why it's important to partake in it more than just go and elect our leaders every fourth year.
Yeah. Okay, excellent, Markus. So I'm very much looking forward to following your campaign and also collaborating with you in the Multicultural Committee. And I'm sure we will have lots of conversations coming up in this important time.
Yeah, I'm very happy to have participated.
So thank you very much, and bye-bye.
Thank you.